James Howells was once just a normal IT worker from Newport, Wales, but in 2009 James picked up an interest in a new form of technology.
Bitcoin is going to the moon.
James started casually mining Bitcoin on his Dell laptop, and because Bitcoin was hardly popular back then, he quickly racked up approximately 8,000 Bitcoins, which he stored on the laptop's removable hard drive. It took James only 1 week to mine the 8,000 Bitcoins using only the CPU in his laptop. This is because the Bitcoin network's difficulty level was much lower back then, since it depends on how many machines are currently mining. James was one of the first adopters of Bitcoin, and he started mining it within only months of Bitcoin being created. After his fruitful week of mining Bitcoins for fun, the 8,000 Bitcoins were actually worth less than $1. A year later, his crypto was worth around $2,400, and the year after that, around $40,000. And a year after that, in 2012, his crypto had risen to a value of over $100,000, and in 2013, it was worth nearly $10 million. James disassembled his Dell laptop and sold its components, but kept the hard drive with the Bitcoin on it, since he suspected that it could become quite valuable one day. For a few years until 2013, the hard drive sat comfortably in his desk drawer, and at this point James knew that the wallet had about $7 to $9 million worth of Bitcoin on it, but kept waiting patiently for the Bitcoin to grow. James never checked on it or backed up the data anywhere else. One day in 2013, he was clearing out his house when he put one of his hard drives into a trash bag and dumped the trash bag in his local landfill, thinking nothing of it. On this day, James didn't even realize what he had done. It was until later in 2013 that James saw some news that Bitcoin had reached a new all-time high that he realized what he had done.
I was doing a clear out in one of my drawers at home. There were multiple hard drives in the same drawer that looked near enough identical. And it's a simple case of mistaken identity. The wrong hard drive was thrown into the bin, unfortunately.
When did you realise that?
A few weeks after it had happened. The penny sort of dropped, and then over the next few weeks, that's when I sort of dealt with it internally. And at that same time, Bitcoin was going through one of its bull periods.
The Newport landfill covers 110,000 square meters. That's about the size of 15.4 football pitches. And since he realized weeks later, the chance of recovering the hard drive will be slim without millions of dollars worth of resources, James first approached the Newport Council in 2013 after he realized his Bitcoin hard drive was in the landfill, and he offered them a large portion of the Bitcoin as a reward. His first request was rejected due to environmental concerns, health risks to the surroundings, and the logistical challenges of recovering a small hard drive in a landfill that receives over 50,000 tons of waste per year. As time went on and as James kept pestering the council for permission to search for his hard drive, Bitcoin's value just kept on rising and rising and rising, which only made it more frustrating for James given that he wasn't even allowed to do anything. He never gave up. But by early 2014, Bitcoin hit a new milestone of $1,000 per Bitcoin, which doubled his potential fortune to around $16 million. His story began to get a lot of media attention, which would only grow as the value of Bitcoin grew. He kept making requests for the council, but they kept rejecting him. In 2017, Bitcoin had grown to $19,000, which made his hard drive worth around $152 million. The soaring value reignited James's determination in recovering the drive. He approached experts to devise plans for excavation and offered to fund the project with investors' backing. He made another proposal to the council, but they rejected him once more, citing environmental concerns. At this point, the hard drive became worth so much money that James could pretty much give away 90% of its value in order to recover the drive. He could pay the council, the investors, the excavation company an absolute fortune if the hard drive was found, and that's why he never gave up. If he only ended up with 10% of $152 million, he'd still be a very wealthy man. During the pandemic, Bitcoin gained significant traction, and James's hard drive was then worth $232 million, which was when his story gained global media attention. The year later, in 2021, the value of his hard drive had skyrocketed to over $500 million. While Bitcoin was flying higher, James was no closer to that hard drive than he was in 2013. As more and more time goes on, experts worry that the hard drive could have been exposed to pressure, moisture, and that a single bin bag wouldn't protect it from the elements for years and years. James gets further and further from that hard drive every day, and every year Bitcoin just keeps on climbing in value, which I can imagine only frustrates him more and more. He put together a $70 million plan and assembled a team of environmental specialists, waste management experts, and engineers. The plan involved AI-powered scanning equipment and hiring workers to sift through layers of waste carefully. He offered a 25% reward of the recovered Bitcoin to fund local charities and community projects, but once again it was rejected by the council. In 2023, as his story got more and more famous, more people criticized the council for their unwillingness to allow a recovery attempt. And then in 2024, Bitcoin absolutely lost its Bitcoins mined and reached an all-time high of $90,000 per Bitcoin. Back in 2009, the 8,000 Bitcoin was originally worth less than $1, but within only 15 years, it's valued at around $750 million. James's determination never stopped, and he's never stopped talking to investors and companies that could help his efforts, and says that he won't stop until he believes all avenues have been explored. His story has become symbolic of Bitcoin's meteoric rise and the importance of keeping your digital wallet secure. That's why I've partnered up with... Just kidding, I would not do that to you. Moving on. It's estimated that 20% of all Bitcoins that have ever been mined have actually been completely lost by individuals that have lost access to their digital wallets. That's approximately $354 billion. Although one significant portion of that is the approximate 1.1 million Bitcoin that remains sitting in the wallets owned by Bitcoin's original creator, known only by the nickname Satoshi Nakamoto. The safest way to store your crypto is often debated, with most people keeping their Bitcoin in some kind of digital exchange these days. Although the exchanges can be accessed from any device with an internet connection, there have been some quite significant instances when they were hacked, and everyone who had crypto in them lost it forever. Another notable story was when a dad from Florida purchased 2 large pizzas from Papa John's with 10,000 Bitcoin back in May 2010. This was one of the first instances of someone using Bitcoin to purchase real-life goods and services, and at the time he spent around $25 worth of Bitcoin. Laszlo was another early adopter of Bitcoin who was mining it in the early days. The Bitcoins that he spent on the pizzas would now be worth over $900 million, but nobody could have predicted that his 10,000 Bitcoin could have made him a billionaire one day. James recently said that he's suing the council for £495 million in damages, which was the peak valuation of his Bitcoin earlier this year. He's put together a £10 million digging plan which would cost the council absolutely nothing at all, and offered them 10% of the coin's value if found. It's now been over 10 years since they've developed a firm stance which has kept James far away from this hard drive. His case is due to be heard next month in December 2024, and says that the council would receive £41 million, but in the future it could be hundreds of millions. And based on Bitcoin's latest bull run, that figure is now more like £70 million. If they'd spoken to me in 2013, this place would look like Las Vegas now. Newport would look like Dubai. That's the kind of opportunity they've missed. The claim on the other side of the argument is that James threw away the hard drive, and therefore it belongs to the landfill now. It's no longer his property. But his lawyers claim that since he mistook the hard drive for a different one, it was a mistake, and James never intended to throw away the crypto. He's given up his IT job and reached an agreement with investors that would see him left with around 30% of the Bitcoins if the hard drive is found. The rest would be split between his investors, the recovery team, and the council. Based on the court filing, James seems to know that the hard drive is in Cell 2 Area 2 of the Docks Way landfill. When asked about how he knows this, he revealed that he has recruited the council's former head of the landfill to his team. His team believe that if the hard drive is found, there's an 80% chance that the data is readable. The operation would take 18 to 36 months, followed by around a year of remediation work. This could be worth billions. This is the sort of money that starts wars, and Newport Council won't even have a conversation about it. That's how inadequate they are. I could spend the rest of my life working 9 to 5 and thinking about it every day. I might as well spend my time trying to recover this simple piece of metal. Until the court tells me no spells no, I'm going to keep going. Obviously my finances are not in the best position at the moment. I'm focusing all my current efforts and resources, including money, on the recovery project. I struggle along in the meantime, but the legal effort is covered. We're willing to go all the way to the appeals court, the Supreme Court. With a case of this magnitude, I'm expecting to go the full distance. I don't really want to go to court, but this is the final shot.